Now we will start with the passage 4. It is about solar system or sun and moon and their motion. Read the following passage carefully and then answer the questions that follow. An eclipse of the sun happens when the moon comes between the earth and the sun. So you know that all the bodies, the sun, the moon and the earth rotates round the sun. So what happens when, and there is a phenomena called eclipse. It happens when the moon comes between the sun and the moon. In a partial eclipse, the moon cuts out some of the light from the sun, or in a total eclipse, the moon appears to cover the sun completely. It appears, it does not happen actually, it appears that the moon is covering the sun totally. Although the moon is very much smaller than the sun, because it is closer, it almost exactly covers the sun as we see it on earth. We know about the size of the sun and the size of the moon, that the size of the moon is much smaller than the sun, but because it is very much close, that's why it exactly or almost it covers the sun when we see it from the earth. So when it covers completely, it is uh, total eclipse, and when it covers partially, it is partial eclipse. Another kind of eclipse is an eclipse of the moon. The one that we have discussed here is the eclipse of the sun. When it happens, when the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. The next eclipse is, another kind of eclipse is an eclipse of the moon. This happens when the earth comes between the sun and the moon. The moon is then in the shadow of the earth and in darkness, because when the earth is coming in between the two, now this time the earth is covering the light coming from the sun, and that's why there will be darkness on the moon. The moon is then in the shadow of the earth and is in darkness. An eclipse of the moon can last for up to 2.5 hours because the earth's shadow is so large. But an eclipse of the sun only lasts for a few minutes. So it also depends on the size of the celestial body. The size of the earth is larger than the size of the moon, so it can cover the light for the longer time, means it is for around 2.5 hours, whereas when the sun eclipse of sun happen, then it is for few minutes only. When the moon is eclipsed, there is no light falling on its surface. But even in a total eclipse of the sun, only a small part of the earth's surface is in shadow, because moon cannot cover completely. Total eclipse of sun is a very strange event. Primitive people thought that it was some kind of sign from the gods, or even that the world was coming to an end, because the moon was hiding the light coming from the sun. It is still a very peculiar sensation being at a total eclipse when locally day very quickly becomes night. Because the sun played such a large part in the ancient religions, many superstitions and myths have grown about eclipse of the sun. Means when the light is covered, when the earth is not able, or when the light of the sun is not coming to the earth, they the people used to think that it is the end of the world. They have so many superstitions about the eclipse of the sun that you must have heard at your home also. So this is about the eclipse of the sun and eclipse of the moon. Now come to the exercise. The first one is complete this sentence. The sentence is when the moon comes between the earth and the sun, we cannot see the light coming from the sun. The next one is what happens in a partial eclipse of the sun. So we can write the answer. It is given in the first paragraph, second line. In a partial eclipse of the sun, in an partial eclipse of the sun, the moon cuts out some of the light. The moon cuts out some of the light from the sun. Now, the next one is in a total eclipse of the sun, the moon actually covers the whole sun. Is this statement completely true? Which words in the passage support your answer? So it is asked, is this statement completely true? So if you are writing it is completely true, then you have to give the reason in support of that. And if you are writing it is not completely true, then also you have to find out the words from the passage that will support your answer. So first you will do this answer on your own, stating the reason why true or why false, then I'll tell you. The next one is which lasts longer, an eclipse of the sun or an eclipse of the moon? What is the reason for this? So here the eclipse of the moon lasts larger than the eclipse of the sun because The size of Earth is larger than the size of the moon. The next one is, what was the primitive people's belief about the total eclipse of the sun? So, primitive people thought primitive people thought that it was some kind of sign that it was some kind of sign from the god, or even that the world was coming to an end. The world was coming to an end. The next one is, many superstitions and myths have grown up about eclipse of the sun. What is the reason for this? So the answer of the question number 6 will be, it is it is because the sun played such a large part that the sun played such a large part in ancient religions. The next one is the last one. Find the words in the passage which means you have to find the synonyms. So the first one is belief in good or bad luck and other things that cannot be explained. The next one is very old stories. And the last one is belonging to an early stage in the development of humans. So for this, answer will be primitive, superstition, myths. So this is all about passage 4.